Just a small request, if you can switch on the cameras, that will help me uh, being more comfortable. I hope you will understand talking to the blank screen is not a very good idea.
Yes,
Those who
everyone, I'd
can
request
do
you
it,
to,
please.
yeah.
So as Janvi mentioned, I am a chartered accountant by profession, and today we will be talking about all the applicable regulations, compliances, rules, plans, common pitfalls, etc., etc. There is a possibility that some of the slides are very basic in the nature, and I may get repetitive at some point of time. Please bear with me on that slide or that portion of the entire presentation. This slide is largely created with single agenda that you get the maximum out of this. So if something is there which is repetitive or I am pretty slow on it, there is a good possibility that there is something more on which that slide is based on. So please bear with me if I'm slow on something. I will explain each and everything in detail. With this, again, I don't see much of the cameras being open. It's a humble request. You don't get a very good feeling talking to screen. So with this, may I request you to please fasten your seat belts as we talk more about the forthcoming roller coaster entrepreneur journey. Janvi, can you please confirm the slide is moving properly?
Yes, yes,
We
visible.
can only see
Yeah,
for
great. So we are here with a very clear and brief agenda as to provide you with a crystal clear knowledge of all the applicable regulation, why compliances with these regulations are important. By end of this session, you will have a brief idea as to what are the legal requirements, why it is applicable to you, and what is the best way to deal with them. I want to take this opportunity to thank the NESCOM Foundation team for arranging this brief session with all of you. Further, I have one request. Please note down all your query, questions, doubt, and I will love to answer all your queries in the Q&A part. Also, we will be sharing this PPT after the session. With this as preface, let's get the ball rolling. Before we actually start, we just want to talk about the importance of compliance for a promoter like you. Believe me when I say this, the only parameter in the eye of outer world, the only parameter in the eye of outer world which lays down a perception about you as a promoter as to how serious you're about your idea, your company, your structure, yourself is your legal compliance. How complied are you? Allow me to repeat myself. The only parameter in the eye of outer world which lays down a perception about you as a promoter as to how serious you are about your idea, your structure, your company, yourself, is how complied you are. I hope the statement is loud and clear. Who is this outer world? Let me define it for you. It may include investor, vendor, market peers, prospective employee, government agencies, etc., etc. The list can be on and on. For the sake of clarity, I will give you an example. Compliance is like a pollution under control certificate of your vehicle, without which it is illegal to drive your vehicle, and at the same time, agencies can slap a huge fine. on you for not meeting the requirement. In terms of, in case the pollution is not in the prescribed limits, you need to make changes in the vehicle in terms of getting the part change, getting the services, etc., etc., which may result in outflow of money and may further derail your plan as well for that particular day. Let me explain this example again. I am taking an example of a vehicle to compare your startup or your entity. If you buy a new car, there are some legal compliances you need to make ensure that. One is having a driving license, second is having the insurance in place, having the pollution under certificate in the place. These are the few compliances which you can relate to, correct? Now let's say if your pollution under control is not in the place, that certificate is not in place, then the agencies might slap a fine. In case the pollution is not under the limit, you need to get your vehicle serviced, and at the same time need to get your few of the parts replaced. In a personal student life, this might not matter a lot. Maybe a bad day or a bad month as expenditure on parts or services may disturb your monthly plan. But when we talk about a business scenario, this situation is really bad, or I will say worse. Now let's imagine a situation in a business scenario, your factory operations or maybe your app is in the same situation. It is not functional because of some silly non-compliance. I hope no government agency is listening to us, but the situation is really bad. If your app is down or if your factory is shut down for a day or for a temporary period, how it will impact. If you're on the wrong side of the law, even once, it shakes the investor confidence. No one will like to invest in any business which is not legally complied or stable. The legal penalty can be so huge that it can eat up your profit for that particular period. Maybe a month, maybe a quarter, or maybe a year. On account of being not operational for that period, the customer will lose confidence. Have you seen Google not operational in recent past? That the reputation they have, it has to be built over the time with consistency. Once upon a time, Google was also a startup. With this, let's jump into the actual topic for the day. Legal framework for any startup or any entity who is doing the business, or I will say this is a legal framework for all the business owners. A typical registration and compliance model. We have divided the legal framework under which all the businesses need to operate into three parts for the sake of easier understanding: registration, compliances, other legal factors. We have intentionally left the other legal factor outside the slide to pass on the message that this is always invisible but have a huge impact on your business. I repeat, all other legal factors never come into picture, but they have a huge impact on all these business. I hope the message is loud and clear. We will discuss more about this in the forthcoming slides. To conclude this slide, these are the three gears for any business which needs to be in sync and movement always. Depending upon your business, the legal structure you have chosen, number of employees, your turnover, type of sales, etc., etc. This will determine under which law and with which agency you're required to register your business. It can be as limited as 2 or as high as 50. Let's start with registration, followed by compliance, followed by other legal factors. Let's continue the same example of vehicle. I hope you remember the example of vehicle which we discussed on slide number 2. When we talked about the
Yes, sir.
insurance, we talked about pollution under certificate. I hope you remember that. Taking the
Yes, sir.
same example, thanks. Taking the same example, this is like you're planning to buy a car. You have multiple options, plain vanilla, easy to maintain, like Maruti Alto at one end, and very high-end ones like Porsche, which will literally drill a big hole in your pocket just for maintenance. Let's start with a plain vanilla, too complicated one. Let's start with sole proprietorship. Typically 99% of business in our country operate under this model. Simple yet very effective, very efficient. You are the only decision maker, but at the same time, no opportunity to collaborate, limited avenues for huge success. In case something goes wrong, your personal asset will be at stake. A very traditional and typical way of doing business. Very cost efficient, but no modern day business. If I need to summarize this in one line, it will be unstructured small business meant for traditional mindset and businesses. Most of the shops you have seen in your neighborhood works under this umbrella. Sole proprietorship, the owner sits at the uh, main cash counter and he typically runs the entire show. Coming to the partnership firm, same as sole proprietorship, but instead of one owner, there are two owners, or it can be more than two. Other things remains the same. In case something goes wrong, it's the unlimited liability for all the partners, all the owners. At the same time, this model is very efficient, very cost effective, and limited compliances. So, sole proprietorship, partnership, both of them are typical model with no modern day features, but at the same time, they are very cost effective and very efficient. Now we will talk about the three modern day umbrellas or model which are available to do business in current scenario. Maybe going forward, they will come up with more. But as of now, are the five models which are available. Now, if we talk about these modern day models, if I need to take an example, same way earlier it was petrol engine, then it was diesel engine, then electric engine. Now it's time for hybrid engine, or I will say hydro engines. LLP, private limited, public limited company. It's like LLP have some features of partnership firm, as the name suggests. It's a partnership firm, but at the same time, the liabilities are limited. Plus, the one feature, there are few compliances which are more as compared to partnership firm, but at the same time, the compliances are really very minimal when we talk about a private limited company or a public limited company. Moving to next, a private limited company, a separate legal entity from the shareholders, or I will say owners. So a typical example, uh, I hope everyone have heard of Reliance and the Ambani family, who is the shareholder of Reliance. So in the eye of law, they two are two different entity and they are two different person. Reliance Industries Limited is a separate legal entity which is different from its owner. In case, God forbid, in case something goes wrong with Reliance Industries Limited, the personal asset or the personal wealth of Ambani family will not be at the stake. That's the concept of limited liability, which is available in all the three models, which is limited liability partnership, private limited company, and public limited company. I hope this is clear. So we have talked about largely five models: sole proprietorship, very limited compliance. As we go down on this slide from sole proprietorship to partnership firm to LLP to private limited to public limited, the compliances keep on increasing. But at the same time, these modern day models have a lot of benefits. One was we were talking about limited liability. Second is tax benefits. Then there are other benefits like your professional presence if you're operating, especially if you're operating in international market. We will discuss more about these models in the future slides. That was a brief of what is there in terms of the concept of business entity or the models which are available in Indian environment. In case you have any question, you can park it. We will discuss it in detail at the end. Moving to the next slide, which talks about what are the factors you need to consider while choosing the model which was discussed in the previous slide, which are sole proprietorship. There are five models which are available in India, starting with sole proprietorship and ending with public limited company. The five factors, sorry, the six factors which you need to consider are there on your screen. Again, I will try and explain this with the example of our vehicle example. Uh, it's like what should be the horsepower of the car? Do you need a 80 cc Alto or a 1800 cc Jetta? Do you need this type of suspension, that type of suspension, and so on? The decision is based on your personal choice. Whether you want to go for a fundraising down the line, you want to do it a bootstrap, whatever the way you want to run it, all those factors will determine what kind of legal structure you will have. I have just one request here. Please keep at least 5-year map in your mind when you are making this decision. So don't plan for a 6 months or a year or two. Keep a horizon of 5 years in mind when you're taking this decision. So there are these six factors. Liability. When I say limited liability in terms of the modern day solutions, which were limited liability partnership, private limited, public limited, as compared to sole proprietorship and partnership, where the entire liability was personal. Taxation, all these five models have different tax implications. In case you want to go for fundraising, the traditional model will definitely not work. Regulatory requirement, as I mentioned, as you go down on the previous slide from sole proprietorship to a public limited company, the compliances will increase. As you go down, the compliances will increase. Operational control, again, when you are a sole proprietorship, the control is entirely in your hand. Whereas when you go and incorporate a company, a private limited company or a public limited company, the control goes to a board, which basically govern the management of the company. Scalability, if you want to collaborate, if you want to do a handshake with number of people, then the traditional models are again not clearly not those model which can be incorporated for scalability or expansion. So this was all about the business structure, a brief about what are the structures in which your business will sit. For example, if you want to create an app, either that app will be developed by you as a sole proprietorship, you and your partner as a partnership firm, or a LLP, a private limited company where you can have investors as well as they can own a particular segment, or I will say share in your private limited company, or a public limited company where you can offer your shareholding to public at large as well. So these are the five structures. These are the factors you should consider while determining your legal structure. As I mentioned earlier, as I requested earlier, please keep a horizon of 5 years when you go for these kind of decision making. Moving to next slide. Let's say you have taken a decision to incorporate a company. Again, I will try to explain this with a example of vehicle. लग्जरी या कॉस्टली कार लेते हो तो सबसे पहले क्या करते हो? ओवर स्पीड ड्राइव करके चलान, राइट? नहीं ना, you ensure that your car stays within the regulatory limit, which is the speed in our example. On the same line, whenever you incorporate a company or any model, you need to ensure these things. Company name, model, name board. These are the things which is derived from various legal regulations, or I will say act. A name board is mandatory. Company name board, where you're operating your company, a name board is really mandatory. As of now, we are talking about a company. What are the bare minimum you need to do immediately after incorporation of a company? This is just a gist of what is the regulatory requirement if you go and incorporate a company. So you need to first display a name board at the registered office of the company. You need to get the letterhead of the company printed. You need to have one board of director meeting within 30 days of incorporation of company. Incorporation of company is the fancy word of, or I will say the legal word of creation of the company in the eye of the law. I repeat, incorporation of the company is the legal word of creation of the company in the eye of law. When the respective department gives you a certificate that your company has been created, in the legal language, it is called incorporation of the company. So what are the few things you need to do immediately on incorporation of the company? Display of name board at the registered office, letterhead of the company, get the letterhead printed, get the board meeting within 30 days of incorporation of company, appointment of statutory auditor within 30 days of incorporation, issue of shares, making bank account operational. The company should get its account operational within 2 months to ensure that share subscription money is received. Filing of declaration of commencement of business in form number INC 20A with Ministry of Corporate Affairs. In local parlance, we call it MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. These are the bare minimum 7 things you need to do when you incorporate a company. Now, I will talk about the common pitfall, which is there or we have seen in the past with especially where the promoters are doing it for the first time. So friends, NESCOM and donors or any other entity will help you with the seed fund and not your paid up capital. This is the amount you need to basically contribute in your company. It can be as small as 10 lakh and can be as big as 10 CR. Please be clear when you go for incorporation of company that this please keep it bare minimal so that you can incorporate or you can I will say deposit this money within 1 month of incorporation of the company. Please don't keep it as 5 lakh, 10 lakh. NF or any other donor will not contribute in your paid up capital. Please try and understand the concept of paid up capital and seed fund are different. First, you need to deposit your paid up capital. Only then any implementing agency or donor will come into the picture. This is really very important point. A high paid up capital, this is something which is this decision you need to take at the time of creation of the company. When you will be filling up the form, the professional who will be helping you will ask you what is the paid up capital you want to keep for your company. Please don't keep any number other than 10,000. Even if you want to contribute more, my request will be start with 10,000, take the seed grant, and then you're free to contribute even more. To keep the life simple, at least for few initial months, period, weeks, please keep this as 10,000. Again, views are my personal. You can have your different views. But basis my past experience with students who are going to be a promoter or a business owner for the first time, my request will be keep it as simple as rupees 10,000. That will be really easy on your pocket as well. Excuse me. So, moment point, asking professional to make decision on your behalf. This is the very common pitfall which I have seen in my past. You need to understand this. Professional is qualified to guide you. He is professionally educated in all the regulations, act, laws, etc., etc. But please appreciate he is there in the role of navigator in your journey. Please don't ask him to take decision on your behalf. You know your situation better than anyone else. A professional can simply say, keep a paid up capital of 2 lakh or 5 lakh. But you know your pocket, your situation, so you need to take your own decisions. I hope I'm clear on this. You are best placed to take those decisions. It's only you who knows the facts more in comparison to anyone else. Do consult and discuss with your professional. I will say in literal meaning, make him mad with your questions, but don't ask him to make decision on your behalf. I'm not doubting on the professional capability of any professional. You're going for an entrepreneur journey. Please be bold and start embarrassing the decision making. Is that a fair expectation from you? Please start taking your own decision. Further, please don't misunderstood me that you should not use professional. Believe me when I say this, they are your best friend in your professional journey, in your entrepreneur journey. Please understand importance of having a strong advisory team, regular consultation to stay updated with changes in law and the best practices is really important. I will rest my case by saying that we are advisors ourselves, but we also have a third party advisory team. Please invest appropriately on getting the right guidance. Please invest appropriately on getting the right guidance. Coming to the third one, which is about the mindset. Please understand that your student life is over, where you were kind of expected to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. This is a different ball game, and you have decided to take this entrepreneur journey. You need to step up and put your foot into a shoes of entrepreneur. Please put the legal compliance as your first priority. I'm repeating myself. Please put the legal compliances as your first priority. Please give attention to my next statement. For some of you, no more jugaad, please. Every possible jugaad has been tried and tested, and the same has been fixed by respective government agencies. More than 1,000 companies are incorporated on monthly basis. These agencies have requisite AI model, or I will say system in place to take care of it. So we discussed about three things on this slide. Paid up capital should be minimal. How to use your professionals. Do ask hell lot of questions from them, but please take your decisions yourself. It's your call, it's your decision that you want to go for an entrepreneur journey. So please start taking your decisions by yourself, and please be very serious about the legal compliances. The mindset should be really very strict on the compliance part. Moving to the next slide, when we talk about the registrations, these are the list of registration you are required to follow. These are the different departments, your state level departments, your country level department, and you're required to deal with all of them. In income tax, you need to have two registration, PAN, that's permanent account number, PAN and TAN, PAN for your advance tax, TAN is for your TDS. GST has two legs. If you have interstate supply, then the limit is zero. But if you have a intrastate supply, then the limit are mentioned on your screen, which is 20 lakh for services and 40 lakh for goods. This limit may vary from state to state. If some states in the eastern part of the country are small, then the limits are also small. So as I mentioned, the limit depends upon the type of sale you have. If you have a sale within the same state you are operating, then the limits which is there on your screen is applicable. But in case you have the interstate, means if you're selling across the state, outside your state, then your GST registration is mandatory, even if your turnover is 1 rupee. So till now we discussed about income tax and GST, which were central tax. Now we are talking about professional tax. Professional tax is basically a state tax. This is not there in all the states, but this is present largely in Maharashtra and Karnataka. And these are governed by the state government only. You need to register only if you're operating out of that particular state. Next to our EPF and ESI, this is based on number of employees you have employed. Generally for the PF, which is Provident Fund, the threshold is 20, and for ESI, that is Employee State Insurance, the threshold is 10. There are other registration as well. Shop and Establishment Act is again a municipality act where you need to basically inform the municipality that you are operating out of their jurisdiction. So first we talk about all those acts which are at country level. Then we talked about those acts which are at state level. And then we talked about act which is at municipality level. Now we will talk about few industry specific registrations. For example, FSSAI is required for any food related business. So if I give you an example, which is again related to vehicle, one of the client was in the business of providing doorstep delivery of fuel for gensets. There the requirement to there was a legal requirement to obtain permission from Ministry of Petroleum for every vehicle they operate. Also, they were required to maintain specific records as mandated by the authority. Again, defense can be example, telecom can be example, alcohol licenses can be a typical example. This is a brief about the registration. If we are starting a business, we talked about three things: registration, compliances, and other legal factors. So this is a brief about all the legal compliances, all the registration requirement. Where we talked about the company level, the country levels, which are the initial two, and again PF and ESI are again a country level. Then professional tax is a state level act. Then shop and establishment act is a municipality level act. And then there are some specific business level, I will say industry specific registration or acts. Now moving to the second gear, where we talked about compliances. If you have registered a company or a LLP, whether you registered a private limited company or a public limited company, these are the typical acts which you will be dealing with. Besides the PF and ESI, if that is applicable, if you cross that particular threshold. If we talk about municipal MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which basically governs the Companies Act. As a promoter, as a director of the company, you are basically required to ensure this, that you are complied with all these. Please understand, we are not talking about first year compliance. We will be discussing them separately. Annual compliances, these are the compliances which you need to do on regular basis. Annual compliances once in a year. Then DPT3 is filed annually by every company other than a government company. All companies who get their supplies of goods from micro and small enterprises, they are required to submit this MSME 1 and MSME 1 form on periodic basis. You need to file your annual return AOC 4 and MGT 7 7A. These are the names of the form. These are the codes which have been given to these forms which you need to file on annual basis. You are required to maintain your books of accounts on regular basis, and the software which you will be using for the purpose of maintaining the books of account will is mandatorily required to have a edit log feature. All the edit you are creating in your system, there should be a log which is capturing all the changes. All the companies are mandatorily required to meet at least one in a quarter. Now we are talking about board of the directors meeting in every quarter. We are still on the Companies Act, compliance with the Companies Act, which is taken care by Ministry of Corporate Affairs, that's MCA. So besides the 4 points which were mentioned on the previous slides, These are the additional points you are required to comply with. We are talking about the bare minimum which we need to do as per your business, as per the transactions you are executing. You are required to take or submit extra forms as well, or you're required to make extra legal compliances as well. Continuing on this slide, all the companies are mandatorily required to meet at least one in a quarter and log the minutes in the minute book. The minute book should be updated always and should be kept at head office of the company. All the directors of the company are required to meet at least one in a quarter. They need to log their discussions and keep a formal documents in the head office of the company. Moving to the second point, pass 3, where we talk about whenever there's an increase in paid up share capital, when you issue securities either to yourself or any third person, you're required to file this form with MCA within 15 days from the date of allotment. I know these are difficult terms. I will try and explain this in best possible fashion. Every time you raise equity from anyone, whether it's investor, your family members, or from yourself as well, you are required to intimate the same to MCA by way of this form. DIR 12 is change in the designation of director. If you're appointing or removing any director in your company, again you are required to inform the MCA within 30 days. ADT1 is for vacancy of auditor. The responsibility of filing this ADT1 is again on the company. They need to file this form within 15 days of date of appointment. Held at least one annual general meeting where all the shareholders of the company will meet. This meeting will held in the fashion as described in the Companies Act. Companies Act has defined the process in which you will hold your annual general meeting. Moving to next, annual audit of financials by audit. You need to get your accounts audited by a professional chartered accountant. That's a mandatory requirement. You need to complete your books and submit it for audit. The auditor will give a report basis the financials you have submitted with him. And on the basis of that report, the outer world will judge you for your compliances and other factors. Besides this, from the compliance perspective of Companies Act, you are required to maintain few registers like register of members, registers of shareholders, registers of loan, register of mortgage you have created, all those. So these three slides which we have discussed only talk about Companies Act. This is again a glimpse. You need to take professional help to understand this more in detail. As we are done with Companies Act, coming to the second act, which is Income Tax Act. As the name suggests, the compliance is required for income that is generated of the business done by you. Since you are doing business, the obvious reason for doing business is generating profit or generating income. Now you need to do the following compliances on annual basis. First, you need to file your annual income tax return. You need to get your account audited in income tax law as well. So please don't get confused with the audit mentioned in the previous slide of Companies Act. These two are different audits. Even if you are done with the audit under Companies Act, you're required to get your accounts audited in income tax as well. Computation and payment of advance tax, you're required to anticipate your income and need to pay the taxes in advance to Government of India. TDS and TCS is whenever you make any payment, you are required to deduct certain amount from that payment and deposit the same to Government of India on behalf of that fellow to whom you are making the payment. For example, a simple example, let's take the example of the vehicle. Let's say your company has purchased a vehicle and you have sent it to get it serviced from a workshop, and the total invoice is, let's say, 10,000 rupees. Now you're required to deduct 2% TDS and make the payment of 9,800 rupees to the workshop and 200 rupees to Government of India, and then you will be making this payment to Government of India on behalf of that workshop. So that's again a mandatory requirement. So if we talk about income tax, these are the four requirements. I'm again explaining about TDS and TCS is the amount you need to deduct on each transaction, and same will be adjusted against the annual income tax liability of your service provider or good provider. Coming to the next act, which is GST. Same as income tax, there are four requirements which remains the same. Only the act has been changed. Now you're required to make compliance with three acts. One is Companies Act, second is Income Tax, and third is GST Act. Again, you are required to file your annual income tax return. Again, you are required to file your audit if you cross a certain threshold. Again, computation and payment of advance tax and TDS and your monthly returns. Moving to next others, we talked about PF, ESI, and your industry specific registrations, if any. For all PF and ESI, there is a mandatory requirement to file your monthly return. As I mentioned earlier, PF is applicable if the total number of employees are more than 20. ESI is applicable generally if the total number of employees are more than 10. With this, we are done with the two gears, which was registration and and anyone? Let me go to the previous
Compliance.
one. Compliances. Correct. As we said, the third one is invisible, which was other legal factors. We have till now on these slides, we were talking about registrations where you're required to register yourself. First, you need to decide which model you want to take. You want to go with Alto or you want to go with Porsche. You want to go with a sole proprietorship firm or you want to go with a public limited company. What are the kind of registration you need to have in place? What are the compliances you need to do on regular basis? Registration is one time, whereas compliance is on regular basis. Periodic few compliances are on monthly basis, few of them are on quarterly basis, some of them are annual basis. Now, coming to the last one and really important, other legal factor, which I said it is an invisible force, but may have a huge impact on your business. Let's talk about foreign direct investment, the backbone of Indian economy. The only thing which is scarce in our country is capital to invest. We are dependent on other countries for our capital requirement. If a foreign company wants to invest in your business, there are two routes. One is automatic route and second is manual route. Simple business and money coming from friendly countries. Again, simple business and money coming from friendly countries are in automatic route bracket. And those who don't fall in this criteria, which is simple business and money coming from friendly countries, obviously fall in the manual route where you need to go to FDI, the Department of FDI, and get the approval. In automatic route, there is no need to take approval. The approval is there automatically as you incorporate the company. This is again a very important topic. Don't get into any overseas agreement without investing any expert who have knowledge of this. Taking this forward, investment from border sharing countries, considering the national security and peace loving countries we have as our neighbor, the government of India came up with a regulation and imposed multiple restriction and approval mechanism for accepting any investment from the countries with which we are sharing our land border. So the regulation has not mentioned about any country specifically, but they have used the term any country with which we are sharing border do not fall in the automatic route, and there is a separate legal requirement for accepting any investments from border sharing countries. I hope this is clear. All the companies, moving to the third one, books of account and registers, all the companies and LLP. When we talk about companies, we talk about both private limited and public limited company, are required to maintain books of accounts at all point of time. This is one point which is generally missed by new entrepreneur or startup promoters. MCA has started noticing this. They have started modifying the law to ensure this. Recently, the auditor's report have been amended and they are required to report that the company is maintaining books of account at all point of time. Please expect instances of penalty and liability on the default in near future. These are the three other legal factors. If we are accepting a foreign direct investment, there are two routes. One is the automatic route and second is manual route. There is no need to take any approval for automatic route, but in case you fall within the manual route, you need to take approval from the respective department. Coming to the second one, investment from border sharing countries. As I mentioned earlier, all those neighbor countries with which we share an international border, this is a different ball game, and you're required to take prior approval from Government of India. Books of accounts and registers, which we discussed earlier, these are required to be maintained at all point of time. Now, tips for ensuring compliances. I would like to narrate a story here. Uh, One of my clients said, Sumit, these days cost of compliance is too high. I had a very simple reply to him. Try non-compliance once and you will feel the difference in cost. I urge all of you who are present here, please invest adequate time and resource in keeping yourself updated, and most important, ensure compliance always. Even if there is a non-compliance, even once, that will be a black spot on the white clean paper. Please take compliances very seriously. As I mentioned earlier, a single non-compliance can halt your operations, can eat up your profit, can have a legal action against you. Please consider your compliances as very important. Folks, we are in information age. Please establish these things as your all you need to do is regular effort to keep yourself updated. Please make time on daily basis for keeping yourself updated and asking questions to your employee, to your professional or to your outsourced partner who is working on this. A simple question can resolve your future complications. Also, I would like to caution you on one thing. The three departments which we were talking about, GST, Income Tax, Companies Act, they share data with each other. So if you are submitting a set of data to one and a second set of data to two, you are soon going to be land in a soup. Gone are the days when all the departments works in isolation. The moment you submit the report to one department, it is automatically shared with the other two. The system is designed in such a fashion that all the mismatches are flagged automatically without any human intervention. I hope the message is loud and clear. Be very clear on the accuracy of data. Submit same set of data to all the departments. Please don't submit different set of data to different department. They share the data with each other. Oh, it's time to take some credit. Whatever went wrong today in this session, you know the respective name and faces now. To be honest, guys, you guys have been a great audience till now. Thank you for being one. We want you to take maximum benefit of the next Q&A session. And these are the ground rules. No question is stupid. Please enlighten this stupid world with your question. Your question will help other to overcome their respective doubts as well. And the last one, ask as many questions you want to ask. Janvi, I would like you to moderate and please pass on the question. You have the option to type your question in chat as well.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, Sam.
Sir, my question is regarding the GST and tax regulations
Mhm.
for a startup which provides a service in case of app, like it's an app and all things and services are provided through technology based only, and there is no supply chain of any goods or something like that. So, which
Hmm.
types of taxes like we are eligible to pay?
So, Sambhav, to answer your question, we talked about three compliances. One is Companies Act, second is GST, and third one was income tax. Since your question is specifically to taxes, I will answer this in two things. One is income tax. So whatever income you will earn at the end of the year, so there will be some expenses, some income. Whatever the profit or income you will earn at the end of the year after setting off all the expenses, you are required to pay income tax on that on annual basis. Now coming to the GST side, you are required to pay GST on each and every transaction. So for example, if you have an app and let's say there is a monthly subscription of 1,000 rupees, you are required to pay 18% of GST on this monthly subscription. So for example, if 1,000 rupees, just an hypothetical example, if let's say 1,000 rupees is the monthly charges, you are required to collect 18%, which will be 180 in this case. The total number will be 1,180 from your customer. Keep 1,000 to yourself and deposit 180 to Government of India as GST. I hope
All
that
right.
answers your question.
Yeah, yeah, it's okay. Thank you.
Hello, hello. Hi, sir. I'm audible.
Yeah, Shivansh, you're audible.
Hi, sir. Sir, first of all, thank you for such a great session. Sir, my first question will be like this: you mentioned that after registration and the address जो जिस पे company register होगी, so we have to display some board or for जैसे अगर उस area पे हमें वहाँ पे कुछ display लगाना होता है,
Hmm.
so that is for a visit purpose or like officially हर time लगाना होता है like
At
just
every point of time.
okay.
So
So
Shivansh,
connected to that,
basically, once you have incorporated your company or you
mhm,
are registered in the tax, you are required to display that registration or that company's name at every point of time.
okay. So connecting to that, if like for example, if I register the company at my home address,
Hmm.
so I have to display that at my address too.
Yeah.
And in future, if I like जैसे मेरा point ये है कि अगर मैं अपने घर पे एड्रेस रजिस्टर कराता हूँ
Hmm.
and I but I don't work here like to be very precise I
Hmm.
work at some place क्योंकि अभी कोई मेरे पास स्पेस नहीं है फॉर रेंटल भी मेरे पास अभी कोई एक्सपेंसेस नहीं है कि मैं रेंटल पे करूँ
Hmm.
एंड सो आई वर्क समवेयर एल्स हम कहीं कोलैबोरेटिव वर्क करते हैं सो
Hmm.
उस केस में इज देयर एनी लाइक ड्रॉबैक्स और समथिंग या अनसेड और अनहिडन रूल्स सॉरी हिडन रूल्स जो हमें केयर करने होते हैं
Shivansh, this is how every startup starts. They registers at their residential address most of the time. All you're required is to display the name of the company and display the GST registration.
ओके सो वो मैटर नहीं करता कि आप कहीं भी वर्क कर रहे हो
So there are few things which respect to the registered office that you need to maintain few registers that should be kept at the registered office. That's it. There is no uh, cumbersome legal compliances with respect to head office or registered office.
ओके सर वन मोर लाइक जैसे हम अपने बैंक अकाउंट में मेंशन किया था सो
Hmm.
इज इट necessary to have a current account or savings account like
So all business operate through current accounts only.
yes तो उसको हमें फिर हम पहले रजिस्टर करेंगे फिर हमें बैंक अकाउंट ओपन होगा ना
Correct. Whenever you are going for the registration of a company, there is an integrated bank form and your data will be passed on to the bank and the bank account will be opened automatically.
ओके
So the current set of government came up with a scheme of single window or ease of doing business. And they integrated everything from registration of the company to income tax, TAN, GST number in a single window. You're required to just fill in one form and everything will be done at the back end on your behalf
and that is through offline channel or online channel
online. Everything is online
in
these days.
MCA portal sir
Yeah. Go to MCA, read the FAQs, read they have explained it in a very beautiful fashion. Please try and go read that portal on MCA, whatever Gyan is there, that is really important. That will help you in long run.
ओके सर, देयर इज वन मोर लाइक जैसे हम मैंने कहीं पढ़ा था कि जैसे जो स्टार्टअप्स होते हैं
Hmm.
they are exempted from taxation in initial days or weeks we can say or months we can say. So
Hmm.
say, if we I say specifically अगर startup India के अंदर register होते हैं तो I have heard कि they are exempted.
Yeah.
Also tax slab के अंडर नहीं आ रहे. So do we have to pay that और GST हमारा null and void जाता है?
Shivansh, if I understood your question correctly, you're saying GST हटता या नहीं हटता? Is that your question?
Right in the initial days like जब हमारे कोई income नहीं है and हम कुछ sale नहीं कर रहे.
So GST is applicable only on sales.
Right.
And when we talk about exemptions for startup in terms of DPIIT, that is applicable only for income tax and not for the purpose of GST.
Right.
So GST
So
is not applicable for small businesses till the time your services are within the bracket of 20 lakhs, or in case you're in a product business or a goods business, till the time your goods do not cross the threshold of 40 lakhs, you're not required to take the GST registration. Sorry. Also, in case unless and until you are doing a business which is interstate, if you are a local, if you're selling it within your state, if you are a small time dealer, you're not required to go for GST registration.
ओके सो आई कैन कंसिडर इट लाइक जब तक हमारा प्रोडक्ट एक सेलेबल पॉइंट पे नहीं आता तब तक हमें जीएसटी की जरूरत नहीं है.
Correct. Government has defined this point as 20 lakh in case of services and 40 lakhs in case of goods.
एनुअली राइट.
So the moment you cross 20 lakhs in a year,
अच्छा ओके
obviously in annually, on an annual fashion, you are required to get this registration done.
ओके एंड लास्ट सर जैसे हम प्राइवेट लिमिटेड और पार्टनरशिप फॉर्म दोनों कंसीडर करते हैं तो
Hmm.
इन केस ऑफ जैसे प्राइवेट लिमिटेड तो आई नो कि हम अगर इन्वेस्टर्स पे जाते हैं या दे कैन कंट्रीब्यूट इन अ कंपनी बट पार्टनरशिप में आए होता है या नहीं लाइक
I
ऑफिशियली
have
एंड
not
अनऑफिशियली दोनों.
I have not seen this in my experience.
ओके एंड अनऑफिशियली अगर इफ आई कंसिडर कि मेरे कोई पेरेंट्स या मेरा कोई फैमिली मेंबर वांट टू कंट्रीब्यूट इन माय कंपनी एंड दैट टू इन टर्म्स ऑफ कि आई गिव देम सम इक्विटी एंड
Mhm.
आई टेक सम कैपिटल फ्रॉम देम एंड अगर मेरी पार्टनरशिप फॉर्म है तो इज दैट
Mhm.
पॉसिबल या फिर उसके लिए प्राइवेट लिमिटेड ही करानी होती
No, they can be a silent partner in your partnership firm as well.
है. ओके
So if you're going in a traditional mindset, that will be something, I will say, traditional model that is really very efficient. You are required to spend minimum on the cost side, and believe me, they are very efficient.
या लाइक बूटस्ट्रैपिंग काइंड ऑफ.
Correct.
Sir, am I audible?
थैंक यू सो मच.
Thanks, Shivansh. Allow me to name them. Aryan, please go ahead and ask your question.
Right.
So
Hi,
if you
Sumit.
can just raise your hand, that will be really helpful.
Right. I hope I'm audible, right?
Yeah, Aryan, please go
Great.
ahead.
Hi, Sumit sir. I'm Aryan Tiwari, and I'm the founder of Parihar India. So, Parihar India will be a product-based company, and I have a
Mm-hmm.
question regarding the GST registration.
Mm-hmm.
So, I take it is mandatory for interstate supplies. So,
Yeah.
for Parihar India, as my manufacturer is in Rajasthan, and I'd be operating out of Delhi NCR, or particularly my office is registered for Haryana.
Okay. Where
Yes.
exactly in Haryana?
Particularly on the Dwarka Expressway.
Okay.
Right. So now what happens is, since the supplies that I'd be getting, the material that I'll be getting from my manufacturer will be from Rajasthan. Now, I believe it will be mandatory for me to do the GST registration. Am I right? Now, yeah.
Please go ahead. Complete your question.
All right. So now what I need to understand is that once I do get the GST registration, at what time, at what point it becomes necessary for me to file a GST, like either quarterly or annually, and when should I do that?
So, Aryan, I will answer your question into two parts.
Right.
Legally, you're not required to register yourself if
Okay.
your purchase is interstate. As you mentioned, you are purchasing from a manufacturer who is
Mhm.
based out of Rajasthan
Right.
and you are based out of Haryana,
Right.
right? Legally, you are not required to register, but
Okay.
it will not make any business sense. So let's say if you're purchasing it for 100 rupees, 18 rupees will be your GST. And in case you are not registered, 18 rupees will be added to your cost. Your cost will be added,
Yes.
uh, 18 rupees will be added to your cost and your cost will be 118. I hope you understand that.
Right. Right. Yes, I get that.
So this is not a legal requirement, but a business requirement to get the GST registration.
Right.
Okay. So now coming to the second part of your question, uh, you need to basically the GST Act is very, I will say, uh, simple. They give you an option either to choose a monthly return or a quarterly return.
Okay.
So you can go to the portal, choose one. Once you have selected any of this option, you don't have an option available to change this for next 1 year.
Understood.
So that's on your periodic return. Once you cross the threshold of 2 CR on annual basis, you are
Mhm.
required to file the annual return as well. And once you are cross the threshold of 5 CR, then you are required to get your accounts audited as well from the GST perspective.
Understood. Understood. So as long as I'm not, like the revenue that I'm generating is not
Hmm.
much, so I
Hmm.
can file a null GST as well. Like it would be mandatory for me to, like if I opt for the quarterly mandate, then it would be
Hmm.
mandatory for me to file GST for null
Return.
as
So
a
in
null return.
case your sale is nil, but
Mhm.
if your purchases are there, then you need to mention your purchases as well. So in
Right, but
GST, we need to mention both sales as well as purchase.
understood. And as long as it is not reaching a slab, I can just file it for null and I won't be paying anything.
No.
Okay,
So that slab is there for registration. If you're registered, then that slab is of no value.
understood. So if you could shed some light ki exactly how the GST filing works, ki on what revenue or on what purchases I need to file a certain percentage or how it works.
So on every purchase, either of goods or services, on every sale, you need to
Mhm.
mention that transaction in your GST return. There
Right,
is no exemption. Even if there is no GST involved, in that case also you are required to report that sale or purchase in your GST return.
understood.
So Aryan, I'm repeating myself.
Mhm.
Once you are registered, that threshold of 20 lakh and 40 lakh is no more available. That threshold is only from the perspective of registration. Once
Got
you are registered, this threshold is no more there. Now you are required to charge GST on all your sales and you're
Mhm.
required to take input on all your purchase.
Okay, all right. Understood. Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Anand. Sambhav,
I'm audible, sir.
yeah, please go ahead.
So right now my startup is actually a social networking app that is not like generating much revenue because we are focusing on gathering audience right now.
Mm-hmm.
And much of its revenue source that comes is basically from the advertising, and that is like not a on paper revenue because that's friendly costs that we share. Uh, so right now, what are the steps as getting registered? First of all, the name and registration office, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
And what are the other steps for a social networking app basically? Because it's not a service driven app as well. It's a social networking app.
So, Sambhav, to answer your question, everything is a business. Going forward, You will be providing services in the same fashion. Uh, any of the social media is providing, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, anyone. So going forward, you will have some monetization plan in place, correct?
Surely, surely.
So that is again a service. So you're into a business of providing service. So for
Okay.
you in terms of GST, the threshold is 20 lakhs. In case you're providing any interstate advertisement service. For example, your advertiser is located in a state which is other than your state in which your company is registered, then your threshold is zero. Hope I'm clear on this.
Yeah, yeah. So the advertiser should be apart from Delhi.
In case if the advertiser is in Delhi and your place of business is again in Delhi,
Yes, yes.
you have a bracket of 20 lakhs.
Mm.
Till that time, you're not required to register yourself in GST. Once you cross a threshold of 20 lakh, or you
Mm.
start selling to any state which is other than Delhi,
Okay.
then you're required to register yourself under GST Act.
And if I talk about the commercial space, uh, so
Hmm.
right now I am having a family business and we have a commercial space, but that's already doing a different business. So is it possible I can register this business at the same space?
Yes, there's no
Okay.
restriction. To answer your question, you can get it registered at your residential address. You can get it registered as your any of your family members' business address. Till the time you have the entire document in place, no one is going to challenge that.
Okay. So right now the situation is we are registered in Startup India and uh, we are having a bank account that is current bank account.
Hmm.
So that is a good for as of now as a registered company.
Yeah, you have a company registered.
Yeah, yeah. All the name thing is all registered. We talked to a CEO, so he's
Please
handling.
ensure compliances, all those
Sure, sure.
disclosures, everything, and please get involved. Don't leave everything to your professional. All it takes is one smart question, and that spills the bin. So please ask few questions to your professional, to your employee on periodic basis, so that you get a hang of it, what is exactly going on. I hope I'm clear on this.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
This is for everyone. Please, it's your responsibility, is your baby. Please ask few questions, few smart questions, and that will help you understand whether all the compliances are in place or not. I will just like to take a question from Karan Kumar. I will read out the question. I'm in a business where supplier are unorganized. They don't have GST. So I have to purchase without bill, but I sell on GST. Will it impact? What should I do? Till the time you are charging GST on your sale side, there will be no impact. Believe me, you are safe. How it works is this is a GST works in a very beautiful mechanism. Wherever things goes from unorganized to organized, the GST will come into picture. Let's say you purchase at 100 rupees, you sell at 200 rupees, and let's say your product is at 5% bracket. You have to pay 10 rupees to Government of India and you have to charge 210 rupees from your customer. 200 will come to your pocket and 10 will go to Government of India. Karan, I hope I have answered your question. In case you have any add-on question, please unmute yourself and ask me. Moving to next question. So when do we have to pay high paid up capital? Vishal, that's what the precaution was. At the time of registration of the company, please keep your paid up capital as low. Paid up capital is a column. You need to answer that particular question, right? So you need to keep that number low. People generally have a sense that we are incorporating a company, we need to keep this number as high. Please keep this as low. There is no minimum requirement per se. If I go legally, you can keep it at 1 rupee also. But my suggestion, keep it 10,000. But please keep it a number which is your pocket friendly.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Again, for everyone, when I say high paid up capital, that was a pitfall. Please don't keep your paid up capital as high. Please keep it as low as possible. Even if you can contribute, please keep it low for the purpose of incorporation of the company. Once you get the seed grant, when you get everything done, please feel free to make additional contribution. There is no restriction.
Sir,
Sorry,
I
for
have
the
one more
purpose.
doubt. Uh,
Yeah,
yes,
please
sir.
go ahead, Vishal.
Sir, yeah, I was asking that, sir, we have to pay the paid up capital every time, or is it for only one time? Like,
So paid up capital is only for the one time when you incorporate a company.
okay, sir.
So again, going back to the screen, Shivansh, please unmute yourself.
Yes, sir.
Please go
Sir,
ahead.
I wanted to ask, like, just say, for suppose I have registered for the GST and I have the GST number, and if my business is like developing some products, फॉर
Mm-hmm.
एग्जांपल रोबोटिक, तो मैं कहीं ना कहीं से आइटम्स परचेज करूंगा, एंड
Correct.
इफ आई परचेज देम ऑन माय जीएसटी नंबर, जिसे मैं अपने
Mm-hmm.
जीएसटी पे परचेज कर रहा हूँ, बट आई एम नॉट सेलिंग इट फर्दर एंड आई एम
Hmm.
यूजिंग दैट, तो मेरे को क्या जीएसटी का उसमें बेनिफिट मिलेगा या फिर नहीं?
So you will sell it at some point of time.
बट आफ्टर मेकिंग द प्रोडक्ट, लाइक कंप्लीट प्रोडक्ट, उसमें सारे प्रोडक्ट्स मिलके एक प्रोडक्ट बना के उसको सेल करूंगा मैं।
Correct. So even if you take a example of a vehicle, so for example, Maruti purchased tire from one company, rim from second company, steering from third one, glasses from fourth one. They assemble it and then they sell it as one vehicle, maybe a Alto car, maybe a Swift or something like that. So even if there's a change in physical appearance, even if that got consumed, the input is allowed. Even if you sell it down the line 10 years, in that case also input is allowed. Let's say if you are purchasing it today and you're going to sell it after 10 years, then also input is allowed. There are few exceptions. If you are giving this free of cost to anyone as a, I will say, as a sample or something, in that scenario, you are required to reverse the input.
गॉट इट, थैंक यू।
So moving to next, we have Dragonfly.
Hello, sir. I had this doubt कि if we make a paid up capital, let's say 10,000, and I
Hmm.
have to pay salaries to all my interns and all, so that capital gets expended over some time. So if
Hmm.
I want to induce more capital in, so will it be in the form of a loan or from myself to the company, or how will be the thing work?
So both of the options are open. You can give loan to the company as well, or you can infuse further capital as well. Both the doors are open. It's largely dependent on you. It's your decision whether you want to go this path or that path.
So like if like I am the sole owner or like I have the majority of the share, so if I give more capital in, so should will I be taking something in return from the company, or how how will this thing work?
So, for example, let's say there are two promoters. One is contributing 10% and second is contributing 90%. So typically, from a layman perspective, the fellow who is kind of owning 90% shares own 90% of the company, and the fellow is owning 10% own the 10% of the company. That will go with everything. If you own 90% of the company, you kind of own 90% of the profit or the losses, respectively.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I'm again coming to high paid up capital. So paid up capital is required to be paid before seed fund. And the seed fund is not, paid up capital is not required to be high. I'm repeating again and again so that you are clear on this. So the way the sequence is, you will incorporate the company, you will do all those 30 days compliances, you will deposit your paid up capital, and then you will get the seed fund. Generally, this is the sequence. I'm already a proprietor, having GST, going to incorporate company. So, Karan, proprietorship is what you're doing in your personal capacity, and company is a separate legal entity which is different from you. So you having a saving account for yourself will have no meaning for company. So you're again just a party to company, that you are a shareholder. So you are two different entities, two different legal structures which are mutually exclusive from each other. I hope that answers your question. In case you have any additional question, please unmute yourself and go ahead. Moving ahead, Mohit Chauhan, is there any minimum amount of paid up capital? Mohit, there is no minimum amount. My suggestion that you keep it as 10,000, but if you want to go lower, please feel free to go low.
Sir, hello.
Yeah, please.
Sir, just wanted to ask, like, just say I understood what is paid up capital and etc. But
Hmm.
to be very precise and in layman terms, why do we need to pay a paid up capital to
Hmm.
क्यों exactly figure out in layman
To,
terms?
to claim the ownership. So you are into a business. You need to invest something in your business. It can be a simple 1 rupee. How a company is a artificial legal person. So you first need to define the ownership. By investing money, you define the ownership of that particular entity or company.
So we pay that to the government or
No, 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 no. You pay
that
it
is
to
for
your
us, na?
company. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's your money. It's company's money,
right.
which they have collected from shareholders, and these shareholders are you.
Okay, got it. Like basically we are giving the money to our company, but legally or paper wise हम बस like as a officially हम show करते हैं कि we shareholders are providing that paid up capital to our company.
Yeah. We call it corpus as well.
Sorry,
We call it corpus as well. For
corpus.
anything you do, अगर आप ट्रिप पे भी जाते हो तो आप एक कॉर्पस क्रिएट करते हो, उस कॉर्पस से फिर आप
Right.
स्पेंडिंग करते हो. सेम कॉन्सेप्ट.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, as mentioned that we have to open business account for the company. Do we have to maintain any minimum account amount? Okay, I will repeat the question. Saksham has asked, is there any minimum amount to be maintained for the current account which is required for any company? So Saksham, that depends upon the bank you choose. It can be 5,000, it can be 1,000, or it can be zero. So that is largely your negotiation with the bank.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, sir. My subsection. Actually, sir, like काफी banks में होता है ना कि opening like of a company business account, तो आपको कुछ एक minimum
Hmm.
transaction 1 lakh से 2 lakh के बीच में करनी पड़ती है for a first
You
time
need to
transaction.
you need to maintain the minimum balance. That's it. There is no legal requirement with respect to the transactions. I'm not sure.
Okay. Because मेरे को ICICI का पता था कि for a specific opening a business account तो आपको कुछ minimum 1 lakh rupees की एक transaction करनी पड़ती है और आपको कुछ certain period के लिए amount को maintain रखना पड़ता है अगर आप company
So,
business account खोलते हो.
so that is the minimum balance which you need to maintain
Yeah.
at all point of time.
Yep. तो एज यू मेंशनड अर्लियर कि जब आप हम रजिस्ट्रेशन करते हैं तो उसमें फॉर्म जो होता है वो वहीं पे होता है कि आपके साथ
Hmm.
साइमल्टेनियसली वो पे बैंक अकाउंट भी खुल जाएगा, तो वो
Hmm.
गवर्नमेंट बैंक अकाउंट से लिंक्ड होते हैं।
There are multiple options. They have SBI, ICI,
Okay.
HDFC, I think Bank of Baroda is there. In case you have this concern with respect to minimum balance, go with SBI.
Okay.
They have as low as 1000 as well.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
That is best to my knowledge. I am not a banking expert, by the way, but that is to the best of my knowledge.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions?
Guys, in case you have any question, please feel free to ask. As I mentioned earlier, no question is a stupid question. You will enlighten others as well.
सर हेलो सर बेसिक मेरे को पूछना था फॉर एग्जांपल इफ आई रजिस्टर माय कंपनी एंड वो नहीं है कि लाइक जीएसटी है या नहीं वो कंसर्न नहीं है बट ये है कि जैसे इफ एट सम पॉइंट मेरी कंपनी में किसी ने इन्वेस्ट किया
Hmm.
विदाउट एनी लाइक विदाउट एनी इक्विटी मतलब एज अ ग्रांट ही हुआ जैसे
Hmm.
फॉर एग्जांपल गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट दे रही है या किसी से भी आ रहा है तो उस केस में वो मनी किस टर्म्स पे इन्वेस्ट होती है कंपनी में मतलब लीगल नेम उस चीज को कैसे कॉल आउट करते हैं हम
That is called capital reserve.
कैपिटल रिजर्व
Reserve.
सो उसके लिए कोई लीगल कंप्लाइंसेस वगैरह नहीं होते कि हमें कितना कुछ मेंटेन करना हो फॉर एग्जांपल जैसे अगर कोई हमारी कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट करता है तो हमारा एक लीगल सब कुछ बनता है कि दे आर वी आर गिविंग दिस मच परसेंट इक्विटी टू समवन बट ग्रांट्स की केसेस में लीगली क्या आ जाता है
Grant is a simple grant. That's a gift. By the very word grant, there is no exchange of hands. This is a one-sided transaction where you will be receiving the money and in return you will not give anything.
तो गवर्नमेंट भी उसमें इंटरवीन नहीं करती
No. That's a transaction between two parties, two independent parties.
तो फॉर एग्जांपल मेरे अगर किसी क्लोज वन ने मुझे ग्रांट दिया फॉर 10 lakhs और 15 lakhs और 20 lakhs एंड वो मेरे करंट अकाउंट में रिफ्लेक्ट होगा तो उससे कुछ
Hmm.
इशू सच नहीं होगा
No. Till the time there is an underlying agreement, what this grant will be
ओके
used for and what is the purpose, this should not be.
ओके थैंक यू सर
Though it will be added in your income if it's a revenue grant.
हाँ ओके ओके
So you will be required to pay income tax.
गॉट इट सर
Any questions for me?
Guys, this is your chance. You can ask anything you want. Uh, okay, I hope that all your doubts are clear. And I would like to thank you so much, sir, for giving such a wonderful presentation and giving so many insights to students about their company registration and all the legal advices. Um, so I
Thank
think
you,
we should,
Janvi.
uh, yeah. So I
I
think we
just want
should
to
end.
add one thing here.
Yeah, yeah.
In case I have not been able to answer any of your query to your satisfaction or you have any follow-up questions or otherwise, please feel free to write to any of these email ID which have been provided on your screen. These questions are really important. These not only help your fellow person who is attending this also help us improving our presentation as well. All this presentation is done over the period of last 1-2 years dealing with number of startups, and basis the questions you asked, we kind of try and incorporate or modify this PPT to include as many things as possible. So again, a sincere thank you for asking so many questions. That will also help us in the long run. Thank you guys for your patience listening.
One more
And
thing, sir. Sir, please share this PDF if
sure,
possible.
I will
Yeah.
be sharing this with Janvi, and Janvi, may I request you to share
Yes.
it forward?
Yeah, I'll share it forward to you as well.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.